Welcome to Ed's Not Dead. I'm Robbie Dodd. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Peter Crable. Hey, Mr. Crable.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome back. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
And Mr. C.H. Siddons. Hey, Casey.
Hello. Welcome back.
All right, we are the threesome of Ed's Not Dead. I know I've used that one before and it didn't go over that well, but I thought I would try it again tonight just to see if it worked the second time. No, yes.
Triad?
It's like
Troika?
END. Back on END.
All right. Okay. We are the three fellas that host Ed's Not Dead, and we are glad to have you back. We have a great show tonight. We have guest Kimberlee Carlile, the director of Utah's Talent Ready program. She's going to talk to us about very interesting private sector public partnerships for high school students and also workforce development in Utah. We're trying to get out and, as you say, Mr. Sidden, get a larger left coast audience, right?
We're trying to get to the audience that's more available at 8:00 at night on Eastern Standard Time.
All right.
But
Somebody's gonna fly us out there too.
We've connected with them a couple weeks ago, and we're just happy to get them on the show because they got some great ideas and great programs going on out there that we want to spread the word about.
Yes, they do. As always, Ed's Not Dead is brought to you by Pulp Education, a full-service educational media company specializing in leadership, instruction, and 21st century school reform. We are going to stick with the theme of higher ed to a degree, and we're going to talk about free college, fellas, free college. I know you both love free college, you two socialists.
Anything that's free. I love anything that's free.
I like free lunches. I like
know.
free meals in between breakfast and dinner.
You're both millennial squeakers, so I'm not surprised that you like
Or,
free stuff.
we just don't like economic inequality, but, whatever. It's 6 of one, half dozen of another.
And as it is December 2nd, this may be the last Dear Betsy segment because Dear Betsy has responded to the idea of free college and loan forgiveness and has just basically pooped all over those ideas. And we're going to talk about that in Dear Betsy, right, Mr. Sitz?
Who would have thought?
Yeah. All right. It's good to see you, fellas.
Good to see you.
Everybody okay?
Yeah, it was funny. I just had like a moment where I was like, it's really depressing that we've been doing this show on Zoom for like, was it 7 months now? I miss doing it in your basement. I got to say, like, this is nice. It's nice to do it. It's like, man, I really do miss getting together in person.
I agree.
And doing the show.
Yeah, we had a nice little ritual going on there for 3+ seasons.
Yeah.
I would buy those delicious subs from Santucci's, and
so good.
For our listeners, Santucci's is an awesome delicatessen in Silver Spring, Maryland, and
they make great veggie subs.
And we would eat, and you guys would get to spend a little time with my two kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would do the show, and now we just stare at each other on Zoom.
It's so different than my normal day.
I know.
It's such a change of pace.
Yeah. I wonder what hour this is on Zoom for me today. I don't even want to know, really.
The other day, I was looking at something from afar, and I was like, do I need glasses? And I was like, I might need glasses. And I fully blame it on increased computer usage.
Absolutely.
I got the blue film on these.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just got these because I feel like maybe my eyes are wrecked forever after the last 6 months.
I've always had a goal to be like Bono and wear blue colored sunglasses or pink ones or yellow ones.
Yeah.
Why?
Bono is always Bono.
Yeah, you can't wear those unless you're Bono.
I know, that's the problem.
Right. So
I know. I think you could get away with that. Great. No. Bono has always had some great eyewear.
Yeah.
Now, what's his name with the bandana? That's not been as good because he's bald.
Who's that?
Rose.
The guitar player in U2. He's always worn the hat and the bandana.
The Edge.
Because he lost his hair in like 1980, like right after Sunday Bloody Sunday.
Oh, is that why he's bald?
Yeah, he's
Didn't
bald.
know that. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know why people are so sensitive about it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think he was bald before you could pull off the look that you got, Mr. Simmons.
Well.
Anyway, all right. Well, it's good to see you guys, and
Always a pleasure.
Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Mr. Siddons is getting a new kitchen, and Frida's a year old. And
walking around like crazy.
Mr. Crable has a dirty downstairs bathroom.
Don't have two boys. Is all I gotta say about that.
All right, it's that time of the show. Show feedback when we hear how much the audience loves us, Mr. Siddons.
Well, I'd like, before Crable talks about some of the feedback he found on the Twitter exchanges, an old friend of ours, Pete's and I, Ken Buffum, who texted me this evening to talk. We were just texting back and forth about some things. And he said, also, I listened to your podcast. 600,000 died in the Civil War. COVID has killed 270,000 Americans. You said they were equal. Come on, man. So I was, a little off. I haven't listened to the last episode in a bit, but I'm pretty sure I said that there were the same amount of people, or we're getting to the amount of people who have died from COVID-19. Same amount have died from the Civil War. Clearly way off. It's a little embarrassing as a social studies teacher, but I'm glad that we have listeners to fact check, because that's really what I said it for. I knew the amount of people that died. I knew the number. I just wanted to make sure that people were paying attention.
Well, Mr. Siddons, and thank you, Ken, because I mean he is if not current, a former head of a social studies department, correct?
Oh, that's some cold sauce.
No, I'm saying he actually knows that social studies teachers should have some grasp of facts and places and dates, as opposed to you, who just embrace concepts.
It is a little embarrassing. My grasp of facts and figures in that sense is not great.
Well, thanks for fact checking us, Ken.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I do appreciate it.
And that was not a shot at Ken. I don't even know what he's doing. I was not making some assumption that he lost a job. I'm sure he's doing very well.
Yes.
All right. So thanks for the show feedback from Ken. Mr. Crable, you never do show feedback. What do you have that you're excited about?
I don't know. This is a little background. I didn't think I'd be doing this one either. I was over here taking notes and preparing for the next segment. So we had a text exchange, the three of us, kind of thinking like, what's the next big idea in education? Like, what's going to be coming around the bend? What is the Biden administration going to be putting money towards? And we were just, I think, excited to hear just what other people were thinking as well. So we got some feedback, and some of them from Mr. Kozlowski, Mr. Koz 31. He brought up, how do we transition to standards and mastery-based learning without having new equity issues popping up? And I kind of said, because I know Mr. Koz is big on this, it's not just about teachers buying in, but everybody buying in, because the A to E scale is across all walks of life. It's ingrained in everything that we do. Well, how'd you do? I did A work. It has nothing to do with school. And so his kind of point was, it has to be about the skills. So how are we talking about the skills? And we've had those conversations before about, transitioning to a more skill-based, like what can students do? So I still do think that's an interesting idea. And as he points out, by and large, people like the traditional grading system. So
it's fun. When you said that on Twitter and I was following it, I started thinking about all the other aspects of life that use the A to E scale. And the first thing that came up to my mind was, every few years, they do like a transportation infrastructure report on the nation's bridges and roads. And they're like, this state is a B+, or the bridges in Pennsylvania are D- or something. It's like, oh man, it's like pervasive everywhere. But I agree. I think I wonder how much the grip of letter grades is on our education system, to the point that I'm a pretty optimistic person, but I think there's so many things that have to change to make it happen. It's just it's unthinkable for me that it would actually change.
Well, I think we start small, Casey, and it starts with the three of us committing to no longer referring to anything on the A to E scale.
I don't really ever. So
Casey, we will
I'm
only
there.
refer to standards from now on.
Okay.
After the show, we're not going to give it a grade.
We don't give grades for the.
I know, but why have we never done that? We should do that.
We should do that, but we're not going to do it anymore.
That'd be a great practice. Actually, we should critique each other and give each host an A to E. I think that's a fabulous idea. If anybody wants to do that out there, really focus on Robbie, if you don't mind.
Let's do that. Let's do that on our next Twitter escapade. We'll have pictures of us with a grade next to it for the last show.
I'm going to develop a little Google spreadsheet.
I like it.
And Robbie's frozen, so this is even better, so we can talk about him more. It'll be like a little report card. So
that's perfect.
All right, so thank you, Mr. Kaz, for that feedback. Additionally, Lynn Harris, great friend of the show.
Hold on.
I was going to steamroll right through you.
So quick.
I'm having internet problems. Clear.
Yeah, you're Mr. Robotico over there. So there you go. I'm just going to keep talking. So Lynn Harris, great friend of the show, who actually in big news was sworn in as a Board of Education member today. So congratulations to Lynn. Something that she said she was thinking about is that, what we're learning about distance learning that we can take back once we re-enter schools. And additionally, what about students who distance learning is actually working for? And I do think that's pretty interesting, because we have talked, and so much talk has been about how kids have not been served by distance learning.
Yes.
But that's not 100% true. And we all know that's not the case, where every kid is not. So how can we leverage and utilize the lessons that we've learned once kids go back? So I think I need to think about that one a little bit more in terms of what are the implementable, yeah, sure, that's a word, lessons once we go back.
I think it's interesting to think about there are the kids who are maybe more secluded, or the kids who are, keep to themselves a little more. There are certainly going to be kids who online learning is just better for them. They're more, they agree with more self-paced learning, or it fits their learning style better. Yeah. Maybe they don't get along with a lot of different kids as easier as others. Maybe they're not involved in athletics.
Many reasons. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks so much for the feedback, Lynn, and congratulations. I haven't run into Lynn since her big win, and so she's a friend of the pod, and we are very happy for her. We know she's going to do great things on behalf of students.
Yes, she is.
Yep. All right. So that concludes the show feedback. I heard none of it because my interweb dropped off, and
we thought you were still here.
I'm back.
We didn't even notice.
We thought you were just being quiet.
All right, let's get to our first story, fellas. Are you ready?
Ready.
Always.
All right. I may need Crable's help with this because he tends to be a better summarizer of large text than I am. But we are going to delve into this piece in Education Next, one of our favorite sources. This blog, it's entitled "Don't Ruin College by Making It Free." It's by Beth Akers. Am I incorrect in that this is fairly old?
It is, yeah. It's several months old. But
okay.
the idea was very intriguing to me.
Okay. So you were actually just kind of surfing and found this and okay. Yep. Well, it's an interesting article on not so much the pros, but mostly the cons of what might happen with, at the time that this was written, Democratic nominees' advocacy for completely free higher ed in at least public institutions. Correct.
Correct. Yeah.
And now this is something that President-elect Joe Biden has also, at least to some extent, espoused, or looks like he's going to put some policy behind, or try to, with a divided Congress, an approach to free college. Fellas, the upshot of the positives, according to Beth Akers, on making college free is that it would be free. Beyond that, she doesn't cite really many positives.
Well, she just says it's going to be great.
It's going to, well, she says, it's, again,
the quote is afford the ticket to prosperity.
Yeah.
Which is very vague.
Primarily, her primary criticism, which I think is interesting, and I thought on balance this was a pretty moderate kind of nonpartisan look at the cons involved with free college, is that it will dampen innovation. That one of the things that really separates higher ed in our nation versus other nations around the world is that it does operate in some form of a kind of market structure, which incentivizes innovation. She didn't really name all that many innovations, and I couldn't really think of that many when I read. Although, one thing she didn't mention was research, and that lots of our public universities are renowned research centers, and I do think that is a kind of a feature of college in the United States. But not long ago, I think last season, we did a piece on free college in Germany, and how, am I right?
Yeah. And
how free college in Germany had led to kind of a rationing of overall services and extracurriculars and other kinds of experiences for kids. And so she's basically saying that also that the kids right now that are in the most need financially, that support financially is already there in the nation with Pell Grants and the like, and that the part of our society that would take advantage of this are those kids that don't need it, which wouldn't be a good thing for the nation as a whole. So my question to you is, where are you on this idea of that on balance, this wouldn't be a good thing for the long-term prospects of our economy and the health of the country?
So I first want to say that I am still such a sucker for clickbait. And I mean, the title of the article, I thought it was going to be this like insane trope about, something. And it really wasn't at all.
I honestly thought it was really well written.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I liked it, because I thought there's some points in here that I kind of want to dissect. And in a non-typical Ed's Not Dead fashion, I do think that there's room for disagreement on some of these. As right as I or we or whoever may think they are, I do think there's reasonable space for disagreement. But one of the things that was brought up as well had to do with the cost of providing free college for everyone. I have a hard time, and I find that a fairly disingenuous argument. I think there's enough money in this country to pay for pretty much anything that we want.
Yeah.
But like with anything, it does need to come from somewhere else. And the data that she cited was $70 billion that I guess Bernie Sanders came up with when he was trying to very rough guess what it would cost. And although $70 billion sounds like a lot of money, to be honest, it's not that much money. And she makes the point that it would open up the ticket to prosperity for every American. Is that worth $70 billion? I think so. I really think so. And she also mentions debt, and we're going to get a little bit more into this, but the crushing debt is like, it's a real thing. People come out of college and they're paying off debt for years and years and years, or they decide to never go to college. And I think those things are very legitimate arguments. Another point I'll make, and then I'll let you respond, is, Robbie, you brought up the point about innovation. And to me, this is more of like a conservative, liberal, classic debate where the public sector doesn't encourage innovation because everything is guaranteed. So people are, and this is my words, not theirs. So people are basically lazy and content and don't strive to innovate. And the quote that she has in there is that if college was already, is the pull of free colleges would divert students from private schools. Yeah, who cares? Like, that's the whole point. Who cares? Somebody can point out a reason why that matters, but like,
I went to a private school. I liked it.
I went to a private school too, but I'm saying if the options were public schools or private schools, I don't know. I can't say that anything would have been so different, and I don't see that, I guess, as inherently a bad thing.
Well, how do you respond to
people go to private? There's public schools for K to 12, and people still go to private schools. They choose to go to them.
But I think when you look at this in economic terms, the shift in incentives inherent in a public takeover would necessarily threaten innovation and quality.
I think that's bull. I think it's total bull.
I don't know if it is total bull. I mean, we've had experience.
It's designed to scare people.
Let me finish. Let me finish. You
already got to speak. I didn't get to speak yet.
Let him respond. I want to hear it.
Twiddling your thumbs.
No, because I was letting Peter Crable say his piece.
Okay.
You got to speak. Mr. Crable got to speak. And then I would like to speak. But go ahead, Dr. Dodd. Go ahead, Principal Dodd. Go ahead.
Let's take turns.
Go ahead, Mr. Rabato. Thank you very much.
All right. All I was going to say before I offended you was that now I can't even remember. Oh, I was going to say the three of us have been involved in a venture that required some level of competition for students, correct?
Yes.
And I do think that in kind of a market kind of structure, that competing for kids inherently leads to quality and innovation. I think we all agree that when we had to do that, we had to be very conscious of how we innovated and the quality that we were providing because we were competing. And I think that she doesn't say it will ruin those things, but she says it is a threat. And I think that's legit.
I take the point, but I feel like it's a cop out. I feel like the actual premise of our article is a cop out. Don't ruin college by making it free, is making it seem like if you let all these ne'er-do-wells in, then it will diminish the quality of a university experience. And I think it's not an appropriate argument. And I think it sounds similar to the gatekeeping that happens in middle and high schools, where it's like, well, we don't want to let all the kids in. Because if we let all the kids in, then it'll diminish the quality of the teaching that's happening in the classroom. And it really comes down to, what are the teachers teaching? The other piece that I feel like is a false equivalency is, so then where do we stop? Is there in the 1920s, high school became compulsory across the nation in a lot of areas. And my one question is, did we have these kind of arguments then? Like, we're going to open up high schools. We're going to require everybody to go to high school, and it's going to be free for everybody. You could still go to private high schools if you want, which the wealthy were already doing already. And, if you were in a 15-year-old or 16-year-old, you're expected to work on the farm or work on the family business or something like that. So I think this is the next step to provide college, or to at least open the door for folks to go to college. At the end of the day, a high school diploma gets you practically nowhere. Getting a college degree and a bachelor's degree is now the baseline to do just about anything and for upward mobility for society. So at some point, we have to stop saying that giving things out for free is a socialistic tendency. It's about rising all boats and helping all people. So that's what I wanted to say.
And it's unfortunate that so often it's either everybody gets into every college, no matter what, for free, or kind of like status quo. And to the author's credit, she says, I don't think she says the status quo should continue as is, but I do think that there's a happy medium somewhere in there where there are more selective public universities. where there is some incentive to continue to want to draw students. You're not obligated maybe to take in every student that applies. But then on the other end, if you can't fill your seats, similar to a public school, your sort of per pupil funding would drop in some way, so that there is some sort of carrot and stick approach to continuing to try and do and be better. And I think unfortunately that gets lost too much in the argument of it's either free for everyone or it's not. There's a lot of space in between where I do think that there is room for ideas to kind of grow and germinate that don't meet either of the extremes.
I agree, but that's not what Casey's saying. Casey's saying make it free for all, and that's
when I'm saying make it free for all, but with caveats.
Well, and
I say make it free for all. You can't. It's not politically feasible to not make it free for all. First of all, second of all, you are like we all libraries in our country are open to everybody. They're free for everybody. You can go in. You can take out a book, whether you are making $10 million a year or you are on food stamps. We expect that. We anticipate that in our public libraries. If you want to go to a public school and you are working in a Fortune 500 company, you can do that. If you're on food stamps or you're on SNAP, you are still going to public schools. I think it's a public service and a public good that should be open to all.
Why? I would ask the question of why we have such a hard time with this in the first place. I mean, to me, college to a degree is kind of somewhere along the middle to the end of the chain of where we're broken as a society. I mean,
if you look at you're absolutely right. The election results in 1980 in the Reagan era compared to now have flipped almost in terms of folks with college degrees who were once heavily Republican in the 1980s are now heavily Democrat.
I guess what I was saying though is that rising income inequality, other really stubborn social ills that we've allowed to develop, and maybe college just being for those that can afford it has contributed to that problem. But I think by the time kids get to their senior year in high school, inequities and inequality has had such an impact on them already in their short 18 years.
Yep.
That I feel like all of those barriers along the way need to be addressed as well. I guess I would say before I said it's free, I think I would manage it more on the front end, Mr. Krabs. Those caveats would be before you say everybody can go for free, you would try to create a structure where you really identify segments of the population that you need to help, and you'd have aid that is targeted towards them that would make a real difference in their ability to access college. I mean, she did say the one thing, and I agreed with her on, I think this is a strength of making it free to everyone, was that everyone would know about it. There would be segments of the population that would have much more exposure to what it takes to get to college, because it's become more of a game than ever. I'm about to experience it with a 17-year-old, and I do as a high school educator. I mean, I can tell you it's more complex than it was when you millennials applied for college.
I guess I just feel like if you're targeting people for Pell Grants, or you're saying that you're going to give this segment of the population something, there is a political class, i.e. the Republicans, who say we don't want to give handouts, and we don't want to give certain things to certain people. You have to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, and I feel like that's just one part of their argument about this particular benefit.
I think a public option is. I think it's very healthy. I think we need to look at it. I'm not against this. I do have a little bit of the market capitalist in me, though.
The only thing I would say is in Germany, all public universities are free. for people in Germany.
Understood.
Innovation hasn't stopped.
Yeah, but read John Hanushek from Harvard and see how Germany's public schools, unlike ours, sort kids at a much earlier age.
But they have a robust apprenticeship program that brings kids into apprenticeship programs that are very successful.
No, I was in the schools. You go into the schools in the apprenticeship programs, it's all of the poor immigrant kids are in those classes.
I think that's a broad brush.
It is a broad brush.
I was there too.
That was my experience.
If you could give me data that backs that up, fine. But at the end of the day, if you want to go to a public university for free in Germany, you can do that.
All I know is that the way the public schools in Germany sort kids at an earlier age, many less kids are college bound in Germany than they are in this country.
This is very accurate. However, if I want to go and I'm in a German school and I'm going to an apprenticeship program and I've been sorted into that, they have a robust system that's been around for centuries that benefits kids very positively, and they have positive tracks for apprenticeship programs that don't necessarily need a college degree. Unlike in America, that if you don't have a college degree, you're kind of up the creek without a paddle.
True. But I'm not, that's not our system.
I understand that.
And I am saying that I think a strength of our K-12 system, unlike many countries in Europe, the British system, Ireland, Germany, they begin to sort kids based on standardized tests at a very early age. And we don't do we don't do that. I mean,
I know.
I don't necessarily want somebody to tell me that my kid is going to be putting fenders on a Porsche for the rest of their life. I mean, and that's what happens in Germany.
I agree. I know that every system is not perfect. What my point was that if you look at a system like Germany that has a robust system in both ways, they have public university that's free and it hasn't killed innovation.
All right. Well,
one last thing I want to say.
You get the last word, Mr.
That she did kind of end the article with was the general point that just kind of throwing money at the problem and making universities free tomorrow doesn't solve the problem. And I would actually agree with that. Like if you were to tell me that starting next year, all colleges are free, I don't think that's a good idea.
I agree with that. Yes.
Hey, listen, this summer, school systems across the country, before they really knew what the impacts of COVID were going to be, sunk millions and millions of dollars into free summer school programs.
Yep.
Do we have any sense of what the outcomes were related to those programs?
Lower scores.
I mean, I don't want to sound like a government program or bureaucratic hater, but I do worry about whether you lose some of the things that make a system strong by throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I tend to like highly structured, managed programs versus something that is just free for all. I do think people need some incentive to engage.
Yeah.
And can I have one last word?
Of course you can. You can always have one last.
So Casey, in 2000, 48% of Turkish pupils in Germany, the largest legal migrant population in Germany, attended the Hauptschule, which is the lowest track academic school.
Okay.
As compared to 16% of those with a father born in Germany.
And
there's your data.
Okay, so how are they doing in terms of their apprenticeship and how much money are they making? What's their average salary? How are they doing in terms of benefits?
They
don't have to worry about benefits because their healthcare is free. How about their retirement? Do they get a pension? How are they doing with that? Do we know about that?
It was at the end of or in the middle of a very long article.
Okay. But I'm glad you got your data in there.
I did cherry pick the data real quick.
Well, that works. Whatever works.
And the other thing that I think she says that's interesting that you see with scholarship athletes, or at least you hear about in college all the time, is that, it's not just that they get a free education, it's that they can't afford to go to McDonald's to get dinner. And the costs, the existing costs for kids to survive, free college is not going to help with that. So how do we expand, support even further so that kids are quote unquote ready to learn and can survive while they're getting that subsidized education. All right. We are going to talk more about private sector. Oh, by the way, the private sector should have a role in this. God knows what it is. But what about a creative tax structure? Biden wants to raise the corporate income tax, right?
Yeah.
What if corporations had to use that had to go directly to subsidizing higher ed?
Absolutely. Amazon should be paying so much more money. Why aren't people paying more money?
All right, folks, don't go away. When we come back, we're excited to have Kimberlee Carlile, the director of Utah Talent Ready on eds.dead. We'll be back in a minute. All right, folks, we are incredibly excited to have Kimberlee Carlile, who is the director of Talent Ready Utah, on the show tonight. Talent Ready Utah is a GOED program that helps build the Utah workforce while providing students with increased career and education opportunities. Through the Talent Ready Apprenticeship Connection program, 27 students have been partnered with Stadler Rail to help guide career development. Talent Ready Utah also has 5 pathway programs. Most recently, fellas, the Utah Legislature allocated $16.5 million in CARES Act money to establish the Learn and Work in Utah program. Mr. Craves, you're going to ask more about that.
Yep.
And this initiative includes support for the Utah system of higher education's custom fit program and several other workforce training programs to provide education and training to displaced workers. Once again, it's exciting to have Kimberlee on the show. Kimberlee, welcome to Ed's Not Dead.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
All right. Well, let's jump in. So tell our listeners about Talent Ready Utah and what your organization is all about.
Yeah, so Talent Ready Utah is housed in the Governor's Office of Economic Development here in Utah. And it was actually officially announced in 2017 by Governor Gary Herbert to better bridge the gap between industry and education. So you'll find that all of our programs are very much industry facing. We have leaders from industry come in and meet with our education partners to build out youth apprenticeship programs, pathway programs, short-term training programs, whatever it may be. But that's kind of in a nutshell what Talent Ready Utah is.
2 of your most recent program additions are something called Utah Works and Talent Ready Apprenticeship Connection. How do you find this to be different than other career readiness programs that may be offered in other Utah schools?
Yeah, so the Talent Ready Apprenticeship Connection program was a brand new program that we started a little over a year ago with Stadler Rail. They're actually a Swiss company, and they came to Salt Lake as their first North American headquarters.
Wow.
So they were really used to the Swiss apprenticeship model, and they encouraged us to look at a youth apprenticeship program that's a little bit more robust than we see in other states. So essentially, we take high school seniors and they split their time 50-50. So on A days, they go to school. On B days, they go and do their apprenticeship. Now, it's a 3-year program. So they do their first year in high school, and then they do 2 years at our community college, Salt Lake Community College here in Salt Lake City. After the 3 years, they have a guaranteed full-time job with the company.
Wow.
They graduate tuition or debt-free because they've paid for their tuition. And they also have 3 years of work experience under their belt. And so that program, like I said, has been in place a little over a year. We actually just started our second cohort this school year of high school seniors. And it's been a unique opportunity for these students to get that work experience while they're in high school. We have the Utah Works program that's also new to Talent Ready Utah over the last year. That program is focused on adults, so individuals 18 years or older, and it's a short-term training program. It might be anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, but it's a training program that is specific to one company who has a major hiring need in the state.
And with the Utah Works, like who are you focusing on? Are folks that maybe in between jobs, or like who are the kind of people that you're looking for?
That's exactly right. So a lot of individuals who participate in the program are either underemployed or unemployed, or maybe they're looking for a career change, but it allows them to have a very specific training for one company. The pathway programs that are kind of the bread and butter of Talent Ready Utah, and really what started Talent Ready Utah back in 2015, those pathway programs were geared towards high school students who enroll in a training program. They do an internship while they're in high school with a company. Here it's usually Boeing or Northrop Grumman, one of our aerospace companies. And then they have a guaranteed job interview with those companies once they earn that certificate. And so with all of the Talent Ready Utah programs, they're very heavily focused on the industry side because industry is going to be hiring these individuals. So they get to help design the curriculum and the training.
Wow, that's awesome.
I'm curious, one second, Mr. Krabs, other than mangling Stadler Railways, which I had no idea was a Swiss company. I'm really curious about. I'm curious about that apprenticeship idea. So they really pushed that apprenticeship kind of model with you all versus that being a part of it from the conceptualizing the program.
Yeah, so they were the ones who actually approached us and they said, we would like to do youth apprenticeships in Utah. And like I said, we had not done that before where it was split 50-50. That's a good chunk of time for a high school senior.
Yeah.
But as we started working with our state board of education and the local school districts, we found out that it was definitely doable. Students have electives, and if they were, kind of on top of things during their sophomore and junior year, then they were able to kind of split their time 50-50 and get that work experience. But it was the company who came to us with the idea, and we said, absolutely, we'll look into it. And we were able to not only put it in place, but also get the support of our state legislature to help with some of the funding that goes towards that program.
That's awesome. What have the kids said about the program? Has it been positive?
Yes, they love it. They love the program. In fact, I think the first year they only had 2 students not complete the first year. And I think they both ended up moving out of state because their parents got jobs out of state. So it wasn't because they weren't enjoying the program, but they've really enjoyed it. They get to pick a couple different focuses, whether that be on kind of electrical or more of the machining side. Right. And then they have mentors within the company. And this year, the school district actually gave all of the apprentices a laptop to help them as they're doing virtual learning, but they're also still doing their apprenticeship in a COVID-friendly environment. So they're making it work.
That's fantastic. Go ahead, Mr. Krabs.
Yeah, I and I had kind of more of a global question, I guess. I feel like over the last however many years, there's been talk about an increase in like vocational schools and kids learning, specific training in high school so that if they don't want to go to college and, they want to come out and start their career immediately, they can do that. And, I don't have any data on this, but it feels like it's always kind of like, oh, it's going to be the next big thing. It's almost there. It's going to be the next big thing. And I don't know whether that's the case or not, but, I guess I'm interested in your perspective on that. Do you think, whether it is something like Talent Ready Utah, and, it does sound a little bit different than kind of like a traditional vocational training program. Is this something that you see that can spread, or do you think it's more of kind of like a smaller program due to the specific connection that you have with some of the industries?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I guess kind of a broad approach to that is that I do think career and technical education is very important to our economy. And what we're seeing in Utah is that a lot of our sectors or industry clusters is what we call them, they do require some of the specific skill sets that we focus on with Talent Ready Utah. So we have pathway programs in aerospace and manufacturing and the life science industries, but we've also done a lot of work within like the tech industry with computer science and other skills. So I would say, kind of to answer your question, I think career and technical education is really essential. And I think a lot of individuals are finding out that having a specific skill set is really helpful. I kind of think long gone are the days that you go to college and learn everything you need to in 4 years for the next 30 years of your career, and kind of learning how to be a lifelong learner. What we call in Utah stackable credentials. We've put a big focus on that, where an individual can earn a certification, go to work, get that work experience. And a lot of employers will pay for their tuition to stack on another certificate or even degree. And I think that type of learning and that type of education is becoming more and more common. But I do think kind of having that skill set is effective. And with a lot of our programs at Talent Ready, we've started with, a pilot here or there with a couple of school districts, and then we expand it depending on the need of industry and how many people they need to hire. We'll bring on additional school districts to participate.
So what's your sense of? Sorry, Robbie. What's your sense of? This is a kind of program that I've long imagined to happen for something like the teaching workforce, where America is expected to have 100,000 teacher shortages every year. And I'm wondering what kind of talk you've heard about expanding into the education realm and preparing teachers in that sense.
I think that would be a really good idea to start focusing on that. I actually think you could do stackable credentials and map out a pathway for really almost any job, even like a government bureaucratic job like myself. I think there's different courses and certifications that you could earn, but I do agree with you, focusing on the teacher shortage and how we can get more individuals in that talent pipeline. A program like this would be very beneficial for that.
Kimberlee, we've been doing this show now for 4 years, guys. Stackable credentials is the new.
I love that.
It's good.
It's great.
I need some of those.
I know we all need some stackable credentials. It's our new favorite word. The fellas know, Kimberlee, that I'm always big on
Gestalt.
No, not that.
Sorry.
How public school systems get more skin in the game from the private sector. It sounds like to a degree you all are doing that successfully. Because I don't necessarily believe that state and local governments can do it all on behalf of kids, especially when it comes to workforce development. I think the private sector needs to be involved. You talked about tuition support. What else are the sectors that you've spoken about bringing to the table in these kinds of arrangements?
Yeah, so we actually encourage our industry partners to be really involved, not just in reviewing curriculum once or twice a year, which I feel like is kind of the basic of what you get, the minimum of what you get. But our industry partners are also involved with the marketing of the program. So they go into the schools and they do classroom presentations. The two big things I would say that they do in addition to that is they provide a work-based learning experience for the students, specifically the high school students. And so that is typically an internship or an externship or a job shadow. And if we do job shadows, then a student gets to job shadow multiple companies. And so our employers know that they're expected to participate in that. And then the other thing that I think really sets us apart is that the industry partners provide the guaranteed job interview. So they're saying to the students, once you earn this entry-level certification, you have a guaranteed job interview with all of us. They're not guaranteeing a job, but they are put at the top of the list. They have the guaranteed job interview, and then they get their foot in the door, and then they can take advantage of the tuition reimbursement and those other opportunities. But a lot of our programs, we're meeting every other month with industry and education. And then it's the local school district CTE directors that are there. And then it's usually the HR director from the company, because they're the ones knowing, here's the training that we need and what we require. And so it's worked out really well, but our industry partners have been so supportive. But it's helped them out too, because they've been able to increase their awareness of their companies, and they've been able to increase their talent pipeline. And it's just one additional option for them as they're hiring individuals and filling the job demand.
I have a question. about, whether there's like a specific student profile or type of student that you're looking for. And, to be totally transparent, the kind of angle that I'm looking at it from is, really like an equity-based angle and opening doors for kids that might not have those doors open for them in other circumstances. Is that something that you all take into consideration? Is that something that you all strive to do? Like kind of, I guess, just where in your mission and work does that fit in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I mean, for all of our programs, we open it up to every student. They all have the opportunity to participate and to be engaged. We found that a lot of the students that end up participating is because a teacher or a trusted faculty member kind of told them about it and encouraged them, said, hey, this is a program you might be interested in. So we found that works really well. But we have noticed that a lot of students who participate, maybe are the students who don't know for sure if they want to go to college right out of high school, and they might be interested in going right into the workforce right out of high school. And so we do see a lot of students who maybe don't know for sure what their next step is, and an option like this is very appealing to them because they do kind of get their foot in the door, they have the guaranteed job interview, and then they can kind of see a pathway beyond high school.
I guess, sorry, one last question. I just texted them that I had no more questions. I lied. I just thought of the one that I was like, I should write that down.
Total false.
So real last question. I know it's a pretty young program, 2015, but I was reading something today, just kind of about, it's not about, this had to do with college, but getting kids into college, but then seeing them through to finishing. And obviously this is not college, but have you all tracked it all? Like, do kids typically stay in the jobs for a year, 2 years? Have they still in there 4 years later? Like, do they seem to stick?
Yeah, so really good question. We track that the best we can, but we don't have the best way to track that. And part of that is because once they graduate high school and they go and work for a company, we kind of lose that tracking ability, so to speak. However, we do try to keep in touch with the companies on a regular basis. And so we are talking a lot with them. And we do see a lot of individuals take advantage of it. There's a gal that we've interviewed and kind of spotlight who went and worked for Boeing. She was one of their youngest team leads that they had. She's taken full advantage of it. At 21, she was getting her bachelor's degree with Boeing paying for that, and she was a full-time employee there, right? Wow. But I think there's other individuals who are just comfortable with kind of where they're at and maybe focusing on that versus taking advantage of the tuition reimbursement. So it's hard to say. We see both, but I don't have a hard data to back that up.
Yeah. So if I move to Utah, can you hook me up?
I can get you enrolled in one.
Give me some stackable credentials. I'm like, I want to work for Boeing. Swiss Railway.
Stadler.
Boeing is here too. Boeing is everywhere, I guess.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't be able to go to Utah.
Yeah, we wouldn't live in
This
Utah.
is true. Yeah, Utah is that would be a good draw. All right, Kimberlee. Only certain guests on Ed's Not Dead get the prize, which is a Mr. Siddons quiz. Are you ready?
Oh, okay, a quiz. Okay,
all right.
Quiz.
It's an education show.
That's right.
So.
Yeah. So,
well, Kimberlee, it has been a pleasure having you on the pod and joining us all the way from the Beehive State. We know you are an expert in preparing students for their future careers, as well as you are the most famous Utahn that we've had on the pod. But we would like to quiz you on what you know about other famous Carliles.
Oh,
so if you answer 3 quirky questions about folks with the same surname as you, you win. Are you ready?
well, does it have to be spelled the same way as Kimberlee spells her last name? Or
Great question. There's one that is spelled
with a Y.
No, I'm not going to tell you that. Anyway.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Kimberlee. Go ahead.
Number 1, the singer-songwriter Brandi Carlile is not only a famous musician, but she is also an avid fisherwoman. In an interview with Rolling Stone, she noted that she fishes in the South for catfish, the Midwest for walleye, Alaska for halibut, and the local lakes for trout, and says It's kind of rednecky, but as they say, blank. A, the tug is the drug. B, the fish is the dish. Or C, it's okay to eat fish because they don't have any feelings.
I think I'm going to go with A.
A is correct. The tug is the drug. And C, that last one was actually a Kurt Cobain quote. Number 2, you're doing great. Number 2, in June of 2015, why did the famous Australian rules football player Kimberlee Carlile become the most hated man in the world? Is it A, he spent around $535,000 in the purchase, care, and training of 3 Bengal tigers he owned for a year, and he also bought his first wife a $2.2 million 24-karat solid gold bathtub? Or is it B, he spoiled the ending of the latest series of Game of Thrones to his Facebook friends? Or C, he refused to endorse Vegemite sandwiches?
Wow. Let's go with A.
There's a lot of information.
Sounds entertaining.
Actually, it's not A. That was Mike Tyson, I'm afraid. It's actually B. He spoiled the ending of the latest Game of Thrones to his Facebook friends, current and former teammates, colleagues, on-field rivals, and more. Smashed.
Okay, you don't have to read the whole question.
Can you listen to me? I'm going to mute you.
No,
I'm going to mute you.
It's the follow-up information.
This is
Robbie.
my section, Dr. Dodd. You need to mute yourself just because, you're a principal.
I'll mute him.
Thank you. So current and former teammates blasted him for spoiling the ending, which fan favorite apparently dies. I've never seen it. He's a blank bloke in the world. I'm not going to say it on the podcast. One office worker at the team said, another person said, I agree, put that one down for me too, said the club's head of finance. And another person said, he's a real scumbag, which is someone who worked with him. Anyway, this one is the last one. You have one more chance to get 2 out of 3. Number 3, the Curse of Carlisle, a city in northwest England, is a 16th century curse that was first invoked against cross-border families who lived by stealing cattle and pillaging. For the Millennium celebrations, the local council commissioned a 14-ton granite artwork inscribed with all 1,000 words of the curse. After the installation of the stone, Carlisle suffered floods, job losses, and a goal famine for the football team. The city council was considering whether to remove the stone in order to try to stop the bad luck which had stopped the city. But why has the town not removed the stone? A, because Kevin, I can't pronounce his last name, Carlile, the self-titled high priest of the British White Witches, proclaimed that such actions would give the curse more power. B, because it would cost too much. Or C, they tried but couldn't destroy it.
Ooh. Let's go with A. That sounds like a better story.
That is correct. The high priest of the British White Witches, he commented that a curse can only work if people believe in it. And I think at that moment, the sculpture is a nice piece of history, but if the council destroys it, they would be showing their belief in the curse. So you win.
I'd like to congratulate you. You had the longest. That was 8 pages of questions.
God. Thank you for being a good sport.
I'm going to mute you again.
No, it was a great quiz. It was very good.
Oh, now you say it. Yeah, that's fine.
And you did well, Kimberlee. Kimberlee, where can our listeners find more information about Talent Ready Utah?
Yeah, so just talentreadyutah.com. You can find information about all of our programs there.
Awesome. All right. Well, fellas, I'd like to thank again Kimberlee Carlile, Director of Talent Ready Utah. Kimberlee, it's been great to have you on the show, and keep us posted on your work, and we'll get you back on again sometime. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Ed's Not Dead. I'm Robbie Dodd. I'm still joined by my co-hosts. It's been an especially
spicy
show, and equally spicy off air in between segments.
That's all been recorded.
I was just so patronizing to Mr. Siddons. I'll apologize to you on air.
That was very nice of you. It was actually so patronizing that it was actually really funny.
You handled it well and made fun of me in a productive way. Okay, all right.
Put it in his report card at the end of the show.
Yeah,
I'm putting it in the spreadsheet.
you got an A. Ed's Not Dead is brought to you by Pulp Education, a full-service educational media company specializing in leadership instruction and 21st century school reform. I realized at the beginning of the show with my tech issues, I did not mention that, as always, you can find us on Twitter at Ed's Not Dead PC, or check out the website at edsnotdead.com. All right, this may be the last Dear Betsy ever. We started the show arguing about free college, and now we're going to end the show, Casey, with Betsy DeVos talking about a socialist government takeover of higher education and the evils of loan forgiveness. So what is Betsy up to at the very end of her tenure?
Well, she's obviously on the side of the student and on the side of the people with her most recent missives. There's a story in the Post on higher education section. DeVos bashes student debt forgiveness and free college movement. And, it's kind of like, I almost don't even want to spend time talking about her because I've had it.
Come on,
it's been a great segment. It's been a great segment. It's had a great run. But you know what?
I think loan forgiveness is a hot topic, and it's gonna.
Of course, part of my quiz is going to be about loan forgiveness for both of you. So hopefully you're taking notes. But she was interviewed about at an education department financial aid conference, and she talked about, quote, the truly insidious notion of government gift giving, and every word that comes out of her mouth is just
poison to you.
It's poison, but it's also just buzzwords and things to get the far right base excited and the Trump folks on their train. And a lot of it's not really based in fact, and it's based in emotion, and it's based in sound bites that will get her people very excited. One of the things that she talked about in terms of debt cancellation, she's very against debt cancellation. She says, "We've heard shrill calls to cancel, to forgive, to make it all free." And she said, any innocuous label out there can't obfuscate what it really is, and it's wrong. And I have such an issue with her just personally and professionally, but she says nothing is free. Somebody somewhere pays the bill. And when I read that, when she said the bill is coming due, yeah, it should be to you. The bill should be charged to you and your wealthy people that are taking over the country. I'm sorry, I'm going off the rails here. Someone please help me. But seriously, you have yachts, and you have mansions,
see what happens.
and you have mansions, and you have all this money that you don't even know what to do with, and you're saying somebody pays the bill. Yeah, you should be paying the bill.
Her brother actually has his own private army.
Yeah, they have a private militia force that fought in Iraq. Like, that's a problem. How much money do you need? You should be paying the bill. The bill should be going to your door, and that's all I have to say about that.
All right, that's good. You didn't go off the rails. Too bad. I do like.
I was getting there, and I needed someone to pull back the reins a little bit because I'm a little fired up.
She took a couple really classic Dear Betsy shots in this piece. DeVos warned financial aid officers. I just picture financial aid officers. I don't know what you all picture when you picture a financial aid officer. Maybe
pocket protectors.
Yeah. That they will be, quote, forced to merely oversee rationing of state-approved higher education options. That reminds me of when Sean Hannity used to talk about Obamacare and rationing of healthcare, and doctors were going to be making decisions about people dying.
Death squads. Death
panels for your parents.
Yeah, death panels. There you go. Colleges and universities, she said, will, quote, begin. Here you go. Here's her shot. She gets this in. Will begin to resemble a failing K-12 school.
Oh, God.
With the customer service of the DMV to boot.
Oh,
actually
She
pretty
had
good.
to get a DMV insult in there.
Whoever wrote that for her that's pretty great.
they have
It is pretty great.
they have like a checklist of all the things that they need to talk about in terms of rating government bureaucracy.
How
They're
can we get the DMV in here?
So we haven't talked about the DMV in any of our speeches. So I'm hoping that in one of your last ones you could do that.
It's the swamp, baby. The swamp.
It's the swamp. She is the swamp.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Anyway. All right. Well, today is December 2nd, listeners. So I think our next recording date is in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to come out right before Christmas holiday.
All right. I'm putting it on Casey right now that we are going to do we're going to say goodbye to dear Betsy on the last episode.
I'm going to start working on it.
Of the worst year in the modern era of our republic, 2020.
Good
right?
Lord.
And give her a proper send off. All right, quiz time, Mr.
All
Siddons.
right, who wants to go first, Crable or Dobbs?
I think I went first last time, so let Bobby D go.
All right, so here's the little swing here. The little change is the first two questions are multiple choice. The third question is fill in the blank.
We have separate quizzes or the same quiz?
Separate quizzes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is a new twist you've added.
Yeah, it's a little easier to quality control here.
Hey, Robbie, don't take a long.
Parallel quizzes. What?
Much shorter than the last one that I had. You ready? Number one, Dr. Dobbs. About how many adults under age 30 have student loan debt? Is it A, 1/3, B, 2/3, or C, 1/2?
Percentage of number of adults under age 30 with
Who have
some
student loan debt.
Student loan debt. 1/3, 2/3, or 1/2?
Correct. Adults ages 18 to 29.
This is tough. I'm going to say half.
Nope. It's actually 1/3 among adults age 18 to 29. 34% say they have outstanding student loans for their education.
Yeah, I thought it would have been higher.
I thought it'd be a little higher too. I didn't think it was going to be 2/3, but I thought it was probably half. Okay.
It's a solid guess. Number two, in 2016, the amount students owed varied widely, especially by degree attained. How much did the median borrower owe? A, $5,000, B, $6,000, or C, $17,000?
I'm going to go with C, $17,000.
That is correct. Among borrowers of all ages and outstanding student loan debt, the median self-reported amount owed, those with less than a bachelor's degree, was $10,000. Bachelor's degree holders owed a median of $25,000, while those with postgraduate degrees owed a median of $45,000.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be great if we were talking $5,000 or $6,000 for debt?
That's manageable.
Yeah.
Number three, fill in the blank. What is the total dollar amount for student loan debt for Americans? And if you're in the ballpark, you'll get it.
If you're within $10 billion.
Oh, so you're not giving me even a hint. I just have to come up with a number.
Correct.
Is it in the billions or trillions?
It's in the trillions.
Okay. I think that's helpful.
Trillions.
Yes.
What's the current federal deficit?
Oh, Jesus.
10 trillion?
Current federal
1.2 trillion.
Current federal
deficit
is $984 billion.
Oh, I thought we were at.
Are you talking about the deficit, like the yearly deficit, or the
but
national?
Forbes says $3 trillion federal
national debt.
Okay, the national debt is much higher.
Oh, current federal debt. Current federal debt, $22.8 trillion.
Okay.
Right, I'll give you credit for this. Honestly, if you can get within $500 billion of the right answer.
I think if I get within 5 trillion, I should get it. All right. I'm going to say federal debt is 22 trillion. I'm going to say college debt is 3 trillion.
My guess is 1.6.
It's actually $1.5 trillion.
But it's not his thing.
Doesn't matter.
His question.
This is true.
Why did you even accept an answer from him?
I didn't. He didn't get the point.
I don't get credit.
He didn't get it. He didn't get credit.
Do I not credit? I don't get credit.
No, you were. Well, I mean,
I said 3, and it was 1.5.
That's true. You're close enough. You get a credit. 2 out
I
of
said
3.
$500 billion. You were $1.5 trillion off.
Crable, you don't make the rules, okay? All right. So 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
He got a D.
All right.
All right, Crable. Number 1, from the late 80s to 2018, the cost of an undergraduate degree increased by how much percentage at public schools, while 129% at private schools? Is it A, 55%, B, 75%, or C, 213%?
Okay.
A, 55%.
Incorrect. It's C, 213%.
At public schools?
Correct. While 129% at public schools or at private schools. During that time, annual tuition rose to $9,970 from $3,000 for public schools and to $34,000 from $15,000 for private schools. Number 2.
I was gonna ask. So it was you were looking for the aggregate. I was thinking. I mean, I knew in the 90s that the college that I went to went up about 5% per year. So add that up. There you go.
I see. Number 2, more than how many senior citizens in the U.S. are still paying off their student loans? Is it A, 1 million? Is it B, 3 million? Or is it C, 5 million?
69 and over?
69.
I think it's like
What-
60.
60. Okay.
I
gotta know
we
what
should call up 1T Patterson to ask him.
I gotta know, that
Okay, that
All right, so
just
this is
shows
the
you-
boomers, man. The boomers don't have any debt. It's 1 million. It's the lowest number.
I
That
agree.
is
I think that's
incorrect. It is B, 3 million.
That's
Young
wrong.
people aren't the only ones paying off debt. More than 3 million Americans age 60 and older owe more than $86 billion in unpaid student loans. And number
my
3,
Lord.
that's a lot. And number 3, fill in the blank. Student loan debt is the reason 13% of Americans in a survey conducted last year said they decided not to blank.
Mary.
Oh, have kids.
Have kids.
I wouldn't have gotten that one if Robbie didn't say Mary. And like my thinking was totally not even in that ballpark.
Well, you tied this one, so congratulations.
No, he didn't. He got 1, and I got 2 out of 3.
Yeah, you got 2
I
out of 3 on
won
technicality.
again. And by the way, if we did the aggregate of quizzes over 4 seasons, I would be the winner.
Sure.
Really, I feel
And
like
for me, it doesn't matter. So
I'm usually pretty good at quizzes, but once we hit that record button, I choke. Unfortunate.
I think it's probably a draw between Crable and I.
well,
All
it's
right.
interesting in that Betsy DeVos Washington Post article, it noted the amount of total amount of debt that students in America owed. And I was like, oh, there's the answer for one of the questions in the quiz.
Boy,
How old is Betsy DeVos?
37.
I bet she is
52.
Do we want to guess? That should have been in the
52.
quiz.
Get out of here, dude. She's like 66.
Nah, that's what I would say. 65, maybe.
Okay, let's see. She is, what did you say, Robbie?
65.
And what did you say, Peter?
66.
She is 62.
Oh, Robbie wins again.
Married to Dick DeVos in 1979. What? It says it on Wikipedia.
Richard DeVos. What's her brother's name again? Mr.
Mr.
Armstead?
Blackwater.
Eric
Mr.
Prince.
Eric Prince.
That's right. Eric Xavier Prince.
Yeah,
Thank you, Wikipedia.
he is a shadowy figure. He and Mike Flynn are buddies.
Do you know
that's
that
great.
Betsy DeVos went to a public college?
Really?
Really?
No, I'm lying.
I would have thought maybe she went to the University of Michigan. No,
Come on, man. She went to Calvin College.
because is that a Christian school
Yeah, in Grand
Name-
Rapids.
named after
Grand Rapids.
named after the burn heretics at the stake, John Calvin?
I would assume that would be nice. Yep.
All right.
School is named after John Calvin, the Protestant reformer.
All right. Well, that was a great quiz, Mr. Siddons.
Only the best for you.
I want to hit you with a little educational quiz as well. That parallel quiz idea. What great developmental psychologists came up with the concept of parallel play in children?
You broke up a little bit. What was it?
That is a lie. I did not break
seriously.
up.
I actually didn't hear it.
Who came up with parallel play?
That's parallel play.
When they play next, you'll figure it out soon enough. I'll just answer the question. Don't worry about it. Just kidding.
Good Lord.
Kids play when they're young. They play next to each other, but like they don't know how to play with each other.
Very good, Mr. Krebs.
Yeah.
Who came up with it?
Is it Maria Montessori? Was that her first name?
Nah, that's I think she operationalized it, but she theoretically didn't come up with it. It was Jean Piaget.
I thought it was Mildred Partin.
I'm Mildred now.
Mildred Partin was one of the first to study peer sociability among 2 to 5-year-olds in 1932. She's noticed a dramatic rise of interactive play with age and concluded that social development includes 3 stages.
You've really hit on a big debate in the social psycho-developmental adolescent world.
You know what I do.
Yeah.
All right. As always, Ed's Not Dead is brought to you by Pulp Education, a full-service educational media company specializing in leadership, instruction, and 21st century school reform. Fellas, we have to get out of here, but our listeners can find your incredibly stimulating tweets at Ed's Not Dead PC and check out the website for our most recent blog posts, edsnotdead.com. I'm going to see you all before the holidays, right? So this is not goodbye.
Yep.
All right.
Farewell.
Anything exciting coming up this weekend?
No.
Back in the house.
But if anybody is interested in collecting shark teeth, man, I went to a sweet beach on the Potomac River last weekend where the kids found like 30 shark teeth in the matter of like 30 minutes.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How big?
I mean, very small. Maybe biggest one was maybe a 1/4 inch, something like that.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
The boys scratch each other's arms with them or anything? Right.
Shockingly, no, I don't. They didn't put them in their mouths and bite each other either. They were like shockingly well put together. I think the novelty of it, I don't know, just prevented that, I guess.
They had a good time. You had good weather doing it.
Yeah, Nanjamoy.
Nanjamoy.
Never even heard of it before you texted me.
Yeah, me neither.
My guess is that do you all know the Maryland, the Native American tribe that was the most dominant in Maryland?
Nanacoke.
Good guess. The Algonquins. Nanacokes were a part of the Algonquins. So that my guess would be that is related to the Algonquins, Mr. Krebs.
Maybe, yeah. Do you know how old these shark teeth are?
Let me guess. Since we were doing,
I'll give you a buffer. If you're within 3 million,
did you carbon date them?
Yeah, I did actually. It doesn't take that long. If you're within 3 million years, you get high five.
All right, I'm going to say 25 million years old.
Not a bad guess. 17 million years old.
Wonder what period that was.
The late Triassic.
The Mesozoic.
He's lying. Triassic. That was good. You didn't even hesitate on that one. That was good. All right. Once again, thank you to our guest, Kimberlee Carlile. She was awesome. Thanks for booking her, Mr. Krebs. Talent. Sorry, Mr. Siddons. Mr. Siddons. The funny thing about that
stepping all over me.
The funny thing was I was looking directly at you when I said his name. I have no idea where that came from. Mr. Siddons booked Ms. Carlile, and she was awesome. Talent Ready Utah. Check out the website. And I know Mr. Siddons will have a great guest on us for our next episode. As always, check us out wherever you get your podcasts and give us a good rating. and send us some feedback, and we'll read your show feedback on the air. Thanks for tuning in to Ed's Not Dead. See you, fellas. We'll catch you later.